Live. So I'm going to give a couple of minutes for everybody to join and share this out. And then I'm also going to be sharing it out. But I'm here with two Senate candidates from two opposite parts of the United States. I've got Christina here from New Jersey and David Strider from Washington State, both running for Senate in really some of the hardest environment humanly possible. You know, besides being against the corporate interests that all work really as one entity, we also have to fight those same entrenched corporate interests in our politics. So both of these candidates are running against incumbents, against people that are already deeply entrenched and part of the problem in our current political system. So I'm going to give both of them a chance to introduce themselves. I think we said Christina was going to go first, and just give us, you know, a rundown of why you're running. You know, the things that you've seen in your community, and what you think you're going to be able to change once in office.
Oh gosh, okay, so that's like a loaded question. I am a first generation. My family's in Egypt, and the war on drugs impacted my family, and I grew up in foster care, and I was a homeless teenager going through school, and I made it out, and to sum it up, I made it to the other side, and I want to take other people with me, and I don't believe that anyone should have to go through the trials and tribulations and be exposed to the things I've been exposed to and go through the struggles I've gone through just to make it to the other side. There needs to be an easier path.
Yeah, well said. Well said, Christina. Being out here on the West Coast and Christina on the East Coast, I think it's really a great opportunity for our platforms, our policies to be picked up by the American people, because we're tired of lies and we're tired of everything. Being a Marine Corps veteran, I don't want to take up a whole lot of time because my nickname is Sir Talk a Lot, and it's important that we have these different things that we do, and some of those things that we do. I mean, I've got issues that are on my page, you know, veterans healthcare, veterans period, building communities. That's where you touched on too, Christina. Cannabis legislation. It's an illegal practice that we have. You know, cannabis. It was a law that was created to separate the people. Respect to treaty law on our indigenous tribes. You know, when Congress makes a treaty, that becomes law. And right now, those laws have been broken time and time again, and it is time that it stops. Also, I believe very strong in unions. Renewable energy. I have solar panels placed on my roof this past year, and my electric bill last month was zero. My total combination of all my bills together was only $35, which is normally close to $200. So, I mean, I'm very grateful for that. You know, on the green energy, common sense economics. You know, it's important. You know, Congress can give out big tax breaks for the rich, but when it comes to the working man and woman who are supporting this nation, which made those billionaires rich, they're left behind, and they're left in the fact that grab yourself by the bootstraps and pull yourself up. We've pulled ourselves up to where it's in our, you know, it's in our, anyway, we've got it so far. We can't get it up any further. Okay. We've been pulling ourselves up, and it's time that we change that. We need to tax the rich. Mm-hmm. We need to tax the rich. I'm a firm believer of Eisenhower. Eisenhower did a lot for us. You know, we had a high tax rate, and he gave us internet, also interstate highways, and a family could have one person working. I remember when my dad worked and my mom stayed at home with 4 kids. Those days are long gone unless you are a billionaire. Mm-hmm.
Well, and I think both of you, as you brought up with marijuana legislation, I mean, both of you have dealt with mass incarceration with the prison industrial complex. So I know that's something that's deeply rooted in both of your campaigns. I mean, these policies, the '94 crime bill, these have destroyed communities. You know, these have destroyed our entire country. Where you look at, I mean, millions upon millions upon millions of people in prison for having weed at the same time where it's openly traded on the stock market. Forbes has a constant story about, you know, this great businessman and that great businessman, where if anybody else did well in that business, you put them in prison for the rest of their life and tried to pass legislation to have them executed.
I'd like to touch on prisons for profit, and this is all I'm going to say about prisons for profit, is if the state government cannot afford a prison, then they need to go over their sentencing laws a little bit more and make sure that they're not sending people for frivolous amounts of cannabis. The cannabis legislation and prisons for profit are nothing but legalized slavery.
Well, and I mean, you know, from coming from the foster system, yeah, definitely. Christina, you know, coming from the foster system, your experience with that, you know, literally, prison to pipeline system. My family does adoption, and it's a nightmare when you see how close some of these kids, for no fault of their own, they couldn't help. But I mean, there was almost nothing you could do but be incarcerated with the choices, the options that they gave you, you know, what's available to you. Yeah, I want to make sure to give you guys, you have the insight on this.
So what I will say about that with foster care kids are the highest percentages to be incarcerated, especially as they age out the program. And then with the recent debt ceiling, when it becomes harder for them to now get benefits, we age out and then we are left with nothing, and we are told, okay, you hit 18, or if you're lucky and you're in a program until 21, you hit 21, and then you're on your own. Especially for an 18-year-old, how are you supposed to go from having a home, because the foster homes can kick you out, to having your own apartment, to having to graduate high school, to having all these bills paid, and then to be told, oh, you have to figure this out, your future, are you going to college, are you doing this, what are you doing? It's nearly impossible. It's already harder for people who have families to do this stuff.
And that's a question I've always wanted to ask. Why isn't, so when you turn 18 and you age out of the foster system, why isn't there a scholarship for you? You know, the state has said, we're going to take care of this child, right? Where the state is saying we're going to raise it. There's, for whatever reason, we're going to raise it. Why at 18 is there not a college program available for them? The same as if your parents were going to send you to school, guaranteed.
When they got rid of
that, I am fighting to change. Sorry, David.
Yeah, when they got rid of Roe versus Wade, when they turned that over, being the father of 3 daughters and 9 granddaughters, my girls suddenly became second-class citizens, and so did you. And that is not right. That is not what our forefathers in this nation had in mind, making people second-class citizens. And so, yes, that has to be changed right now. And if it doesn't get changed until you and I are in office, Christina, so be it. We'll have House majority. We'll have House majority.
Well, and I mean, and that's kind of that's something that boggles my mind on the progressive side. You know, we've got 1,000 fires to put out, right? On the right, they basically got 2 issues that they fight about, right? They don't even have to have a meeting about it, right? Guns and abortion, that's it, right? On our side, we've got just 1,000 uphill battles to try to, fires to put out on the way by. We got to fight the climate crisis. We've got to fight for women's rights. We've got to, fight poverty and for housing and homelessness and food insecurity. The list goes on, where they just come out and give a screaming speech about abortion rights, maybe some CRT stuff, raise $1 million and go on with their day.
Just want to rewind back to the foster care topic. Foster care kids, we are at a higher percentage rate of being trafficked and vanishing. But when we vanish, we're marked as runaways. We are not searched for. And if you're black or brown or minority foster care child, your importance just vanishes to none. You are automatically.
Yeah, they're not going to look for you. I saw a study that was done recently, and it showed the difference between before social media took over and people started posting those missing and murdered Indigenous women posts. And I mean, for a bunch of people, normally black and brown children, and the rate of them being identified and found has skyrocketed. And it's skyrocketed has nothing to do with government influence, police influence, right? They had almost nothing to do with it, where people are actually do care about it, but our system seems to not care at all, right? If you're a billionaire that sealed yourself in a tube, we got helicopters and ships and I mean everything, right? But if you're a little girl that's missing off the reservation, sorry guys, nothing we can do.
When they overturned Roe versus Wade, when the evangelicals, okay, I'm a man of faith, Christina. When they took and got rid of Roe versus Wade, and they said that life is important, but it seems like as soon as they're born, it no longer becomes their concern. Now, this is where I want to throw a caveat into their face. You wanted to make sure that that child was born. Because of that, that child has become a ward of the state, and the state is going to make sure that that child is always healthy, always has medical care, and always has the ability to go to college, whether there was a chance for them to go or not. If they want to go to a trade school, they'll be able to. Anytime that child goes missing, suddenly there is an Amber Alert in that location. And if they were seen with somebody, I'm just saying, we lock down that area. If a child goes missing, we lock it down.
It has to do with worth, right? Like our children should all be worth that much. Right? It doesn't matter where it goes, but when we look at the statistics, we can see quite clearly there's a group of children, black, brown, and poor, that y'all don't seem to give a shit about, right? And that has to change.
We can spend $100 million looking for 5 people who went down in a submersible. We can spend hundreds of millions of dollars and all the ships that were out there looking for them, but.
And it's not just this issue. We can spend $100 billion on literally anything, it seems, but actually helping our people.
Our priorities, as humanity, we cared more about those 5 billionaires in that submersible than we did the 500 to 700 people that died, in the Mediterranean trying to get to freedom.
I don't think we did. I don't think anybody on the people's side, anybody making less than $1 billion a year cared about it. The news ran it, and all of the news got responses were memes of how absolutely insane this seems, right? Nobody that's an actual real person, nobody of the people gave a shit, right? The big guys all seemed to really care. They were clutching their pearls, and they were all mocked. And I think we've came to a point in the media where a lot of these stories, although they're played nonstop, they're completely mocked.
Yeah.
Like nobody trusts what you're saying to us, right? The 24-hour coverage, it was just people mocking them. It didn't stop them from spending the money, right? But it was completely nobody on our end. And that goes to a lot of issues. Nobody on our end cares.
Yeah, and this goes to show you where our priorities as the people are and that what we allow our government to do. We want to spend money on weapons, etc. I mean, we got warned about that by Eisenhower, back to Eisenhower. We got warned about the military industrial complex, Raytheon, and all those other places. Yes, our self-defense is important, but going in and restructuring nations because they don't agree with us is not what we should be doing. We should be looking out after how we can make better. I mean, China is making inroads to Africa and now Cuba. Because why? Because they're not going in there and selling them weapons. They're not going in. They're building schools. They're building roads. They're building commerce. We go in there and we see how many AR-15s we can sell them, how many tanks we can sell them, how many Stinger missiles we can sell them. We are doing those kind of things rather than encouraging the communities and the people there to be better, to be healthier. We're not doing that. We're selling them weapons.
Well, I mean, it's pretty simple. People do like roads and hospitals more than being carpet bombed and death squads. I don't know why this isn't completely obvious to everyone, but the U.S. is just now waking up to that idea, where it seems the Chinese have figured that out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, it's not the end goal. And I think a lot of people give you that response. Well, the Chinese are there, and just for that doesn't matter. Everybody is there to mine something, to do some sort of business, to whatever, right? They want to do business with people that aren't constantly trying to murder them or hire other people to murder them, right? I hope that, you know, we have in this new generation of politicians, that we have people that are willing to look at this different. Nothing from the Cold War worked.
No, nothing did. And I'm going to bring up, you know, prison system incarceration just a little bit.
That's fine.
It's we repeat the vicious cycle over and over and over again. And then we put people in prison, they come out, they commit crimes, and we put them back in prison, and they're just like, you know, why can't they stop committing crimes? Why can't they just stop? And then when they do leave, they have this entire record. It's impossible for them to get a job. And it's not just marijuana. I believe, as someone who's worked in the medical field as well as the mental health and substance abuse field, you should not be incarcerated and go to prison for a disease. So whether you're addicted to heroin, or whether you're addicted to marijuana, or whether you have mushrooms on you or whatever, I don't believe that you should be incarcerated for a disease. There's a difference between being a drug dealer and somebody who is just selling to feed their habit, and somebody who is just has a habit, an addiction. So it harms our communities, it harms these individuals, and it sends a message that says you are not allowed to be sick, when there's so much science out there that says addiction's a disease. These substances are a disease. We treat it like a medical disease when they come into treatment, when they come into rehabs, when they come into medical detox, but then we're going to punish them for having a disease at the same time.
Oh, and I think we lost Dave there for a second. I think he's on his phone. Yeah, I agree 100%. I'm in Washington at the moment, where cannabis is legal. It is nice to know that you won't be executed for having weed on you one way or another. That shouldn't be such a low bar, but it is, you know, going back and forth to anywhere, knowing that, you know, that the stoner in the car next to you isn't going to be filled full of holes because someone felt they smelled weed, right? That scares the crap out of me. How we treat the drug war, how we've treated drugs in general, addiction in general in America, is like nowhere else I've seen in the world.
Yeah, and it's pretty crazy. And just going into incarceration, ending mass incarceration is going to save lives and save families. And turning the prison system into rehabilitation centers is going to also give these individuals that have committed crimes the right tools, so that way when they do leave, they're able to function as an independent adult, because so many people growing up did not have the ability to learn such simple skills such as reading and writing. And that also creates many barriers, because I've worked with people, adults in their 30s and their 40s and their 50s, that do not know how to read and write. And I want to say, just for New Jersey, I'm not sure with all the other states, once you hit 21, there is no legal obligation to get you your GED. We need to open that up, and everyone should have a mandated GED or their high school diploma, because it's just the simple basic thing that's asked for all these job applications.
Well, I mean, that's the deal. If you're going to ask for those as the requirement for the job, then you're required, you know, then it makes sense that you would train the people in your care to be able to do it. Like, if you're sending people into the world knowing that they have no chance, no job skills, like, what was the point?
Yeah. And then doing that is also going to lower the crime rates, help families stay together, and most importantly, because crime is going to be lower, taxes are going to be lower.
Well, I mean, in general, just in marijuana legislation, not spending billions and billions and billions of dollars to incarcerate people for weed, it's going to save us money. I don't know how else to, I mean, that's more than obvious, right? We can spend that on literally anything else we want. Infrastructure, green power, food lunches, pick something, anything, but basically anything is better spent than mass incarceration.
Oh, totally. And any mass incarceration is just going to open up so many new doors, because then that money could be funded into investing in communities, harm reduction, better schools, make sure that everyone's able to have an equal education and it's no longer depending on an individual zip code. So we can redirect the funds, because a lot of people are like, oh, our taxes are going to be raised. No, it's not going to be raised. We could just redirect the funds to where it's benefiting people instead of harming people.
And I mean, I have a sneaking suspicion, like most blank industrial complexes, when we stop spending money on them, it's actually cheaper. It's not just the redirecting. Like, you'll find out it costs exponentially less to feed people than it does to incarcerate them. You know, and you can put that to almost anything. When you say, oh, well, how come we don't have support in the region of whatever, right? It costs exponentially less to feed people and get support in the area than it does to bomb people and get support in the area. It's the same complex. The blank industrial complex is always the most expensive route to go.
It really is the blank. I like that. And like, you know, when you bring up feeding people, I was in Paterson, New Jersey a few weeks ago, and I was at a event with Black Lives Matter in Paterson, and it was a community event, and I was speaking with one of the I think it was the co-president. Anyway, so I was speaking with her, and she was upset, and I was asking why, and she was like, the house over there, the homeless people that are, you know, next to us right now, they were squatting in that house, and now instead of, you know, investing money into it, there were guys out there building a giant fence around it and putting bars on the windows. And I'm just like, I know that costs a lot more money than it would cost to actually put beds in there or a shower or turn it into a program. And then they're complaining about the homeless on the street. But then when they have a solution, you're not investing in a solution, you're investing in the problem. And then you want to criminalize homelessness and put them right into prison if they're not following your directions, but you're not giving anyone an outlet.
Well, and I think it's important to get people like you in office for those very reasons. It doesn't seem like their goal is to cure homelessness.
No.
Right. And once you get people in office where that is their goal, then a lot of things will change. The cure to homelessness, especially families, the family that's working a 40-hour week and living in their car, the cure to that homeless is to get those families homes. And for some reason, there's some weird disconnect where they have every solution: tear gas, tanks, body armor, helicopters, right? Robot attack dogs. They seem to have every solution except buying an apartment building and running it to low-income families.
Yeah.
Like, that connection just never seems to happen to them. Even if you look, you know, I wish we had Tom on here so we could talk a little bit about California, but the Silicon Valley Bank that just went bankrupt. The taxpayer, U.S. government, went in and bought all of that debt and didn't demand a certain amount of them go to low-income housing. The U.S. government just bought an entire, 100 apartment complexes and didn't say 10 of them need to go to low-income housing because I'm buying it from you. I own that debt now.
No.
But it's because the people we have in office don't want to cure homelessness.
No, they don't. It seems like they're very detached. And that's why I'm running, because there's this huge disconnect. And in New Jersey and also throughout the state, the minimum wage does not add up to what rent costs. And essentially, you're supposed to only be spending 30% of your income on rent. That's how it was originally designed. And now you have to work 2-3 jobs just to afford your house, but you're never able to afford furniture. You're not able to afford your bills. You have to pick and choose whether you're going to eat one day or not eat one day. And the price is literally made up by man. That's how it's like, because I know some landlords that do not raise rent, and they are still able to afford all their bills and still able to afford the mortgage on whatever their property is. So to raise it such exponentially exponentially. It's such a huge amount. And for it to be allowed is just crazy when there are so many that are just like, I have a good tenant, I keep a good tenant, everything's going well, I'm able to still pay my bills and have money left over. It's just wild.
Well, I mean, we're dealing with inflation that's absolute insanity. But even before inflation was part of the equation, your average family was working their ass off and cannot afford the very bare necessities, right? A house, you know, a 3-bedroom house, like any of that. And again, you get priced out of the market. There's greed involved. The debt-based system lends itself to some of these problems because they don't trade with each other on the value of the house. They just trade the debt back and forth. So it doesn't matter if they have a family in there or not. It's bundled in another million, houses, and they sell that debt back and forth. Where the people on the bottom, you're not even involved in the system anymore. Right, your average family going out and buying a single, house is not in the equation of the housing market anymore. The housing market is, I buy $1 trillion worth of real estate debt from you. You sell it back to me. If it goes the other one, I buy it a little bit lower, and they just trade that debt back and forth. And your average person, like I said, they don't give a shit. They're not in that anymore. Nobody cares about the family home buyer, right? That part of the equation doesn't exist anymore. And that's where we get to a place where a 3-bedroom house costs you $500,000, or more.
It really, and it's crazy. And we really need to redesign how housing is and remove barriers so people can afford their own housing if they don't want to rent.
And I've been to countries that just don't have the homelessness problems that we have. In fact, most of the countries that I've been to don't have the homeless problems that we have. And it's mind-boggling. You go to neighborhoods and there'll be, vacant houses for miles and miles and miles and miles. All of the solutions are there, and nobody ever seems to want to fix the problem.
Well, that's something. Where I'm at, we call them zombie houses, where the banks just sit on them. And they sit on them, and when they feel like it, then they're going to start reselling them, which is a problem because they could be sitting there for like so many years, but then it's illegal if someone breaks into an empty house and squats there, but they have no choice. So instead of removing the barriers, they just keep adding more barriers, but then it leads to the housing crisis because all these houses are unavailable, all these apartments are unavailable because the banks are just letting them sit there and just remain empty, and they're not able to rent or sell or do anything. Then people are just like, we need houses, we need apartments, we need this. So that leads to the inflation of the problem. It's just a vicious circle. So banks need to be held accountable. We need new policies. We need new laws. We need new redirection. We need people that are going to invest. I was in Newark, New Jersey the other day, and I was doing a mental health training and giving resources and education to single moms that are homeless with kids. And it's just like, that's a little ridiculous. It's like, and the shelter, like Newark did an amazing job with this facility. It was breathtaking. It was beautiful. They really invested the money, but it's not a permanent solution. It's a temporary solution. And not many places, a lot of them are on Section 8, a lot of them are on housing or looking for affordable housing. But the problem is the Section 8, not many people take it. The amount of people that I've run into that I've tried to help them get apartments, and so many, even though it's against the law, supposedly, like they're supposed to accept Section 8 because it's guaranteed money. A lot of people are like, no, because of a negative stigma that comes with it. Hey, David. They're talking,
oh, there we go. We got back
about the housing crisis.
I've been able to hear, but unable to react.
Oh, yeah. So, and it's just like these moms, the people that I deal with, and I deal with people that the people in office would never touch, would never go near them. But I'll sit down with them. I spend time with them on a weekly basis because I feel like it would have just been one bad decision for me to wind up on that side. But it also would have been, I think it would be one good decision. I don't want to judge. Let me take that out because I feel I'm being judgy. I try not to be judgy at all, but it's so easily and so many options. Like if my landlord if I didn't wind up in the situation I wound up in, and my landlord wasn't, he's one of the wonderful people that won't raise the rent. If I had to pay the astronomical rent that has been charged to other people, I'd be living in my car right now.
Well, it's just weird for someone to culturally hate the next generation. So, you know, in the situation of a single mom, you're mad at them for taking care of the people that are literally going to build our future, right? That's what's stressing you out. It's I didn't grow up in America, right? I grew up in Europe, and Germany had Kindergeld, right? That was because their population was so devastated after the war, right? To boost the population, they paid you a certain amount for having children. You got Kindergeld, kids' money. And the cultural view of a single mother was so different than it is here in the States, where the fact that somebody is, you know what I mean? The way they used to, they just don't have enough Germans anymore. They're all dead. That somebody is, that's making the future generation, they actually cared about those people, right? You wouldn't be able to fall below a certain amount because we need you, right? Where our culture sees anybody that's poor, anybody that's a single mom, all of it as being all this negativity on top of what your struggle already is.
And
right, where our culture looks down on you for it, in the way that Dave was talking about, where it's, you got to protect the baby at all costs, protect it, like all of this, and then you're born, they're like, well, fuck them,
and they're
starve.
complaining because our population rate is declining, but they're not giving any essentials that's saying, yay, let's have kids, we're going to help you take care of them. They're not giving any incentives that are saying, yes, we'll make sure that healthcare and everything is covered and you're able to afford a home. Because, majority of the moms that are single, it's because of mass incarceration. So it's a systematic issue that has to be completely redesigned, and it's not their fault. And we also have very little resources for single moms, but I know single fathers, and I've worked with them. There's no resources for single fathers. What are they supposed to do? And the amount of times that they've faced homelessness, and some of them have been homeless or had to place themselves in high-risk situations to take care of themselves and their kids. It's just...
And that does happen overwhelmingly. As far as like systematically, there is very little support for single dads. As a single dad, right, this was an uphill battle. But if I walk into a room, right, if I walk into a business, if I need help with something and I say, hey, I'm a single dad, I don't know about this, people bend over backwards to help me, right? Oh, blah, 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 right? You're getting, respect, blah, blah, they give you all of this stuff. If a single mom walks in and said the exact same thing, right, they damn near like run her out of the store, run her out of the business, right? If they're on the phone, right? It's a completely different dynamic in the world that we live in.
But she was responsible, right, for carrying that child. In that specifically. She was responsible, Terrence, for carrying that child and making sure that that child was healthy. But after it was born,
definitely.
Definitely.
That wasn't the
you shouldn't have got pregnant.
Yeah, that's not the argument, but
so many people say that, in their back of their minds, yeah, you got to take care of that child because that's what the law says. But when the child is in the system and everything else, it's like, well, you've got to follow this rule. Yeah, we'll cut you off with the threat of cutting you off. And what does that do? Just like you just mentioned earlier, what happens to them? They end up homeless in a car or on the street.
Or unfortunately in the foster system, right? Like there's so much money to be made off of this. They see that as a win. If they put you in the foster system, they know they're going to make, hopefully make $3,000-$4,000 a month off of each person that they keep in a cage. Right? Like they figure it that way.
And that's one of the things that I've actually had to like fight with for my clients. It's so sad. It's so scary where we have single parents that are just like, I just need help with finding a home. And the state says, no, you're going to be homeless. We're taking your kid away. And then you have to find a home. But you can't just find any home. You have to find a home that meets our requirements.
Yeah.
And there's some places where when they look at it, you'll never meet those requirements. Like certain people, for some reason, You just never, for some reason, the native families just never seem, no matter how high of standard, I can live in a mansion and it just cannot meet the standard for indigenous children. It's weird,
The
right? It's weird.
field, you're probably familiar with the adoption rates around your area too. That's a big money thing too.
Oh my gosh. Adoption needs to be redesigned. I don't know who needs to investigate, but you can spend so much money, and they push people to adopt outside the country instead of adopting within the country. And last second, they can, for any reason, they can say no. And they don't have to give you a reason.
Because somebody had a higher bid than you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's got it.
And once you start putting price tags on people, it never ends up going well.
No, and that's why I think we're going to have fun in the Senate, Christina.
Yes.
Taking and getting rid of bills that have phrases in them that don't need to be there. Pork on a bill that doesn't need to be there. I believe that a bill should be just one issue and one issue only. And all this other stuff that we're tagging on stuff. Terrence, you mentioned a part about this guy who was able to put on these pork projects, on traffic or highways and stuff. He was the master of pork.
Oh, Martha, my buddy.
Yeah, the master of pork. I mean, we've got to stop that. We've got to take the money out of politics. Period.
Yeah.
We've got to take it out. And we've got to reform so much. We've got, we're going to have a hard time with all these extremists that are in our government right now. And I love the fact that there are a lot of people who are standing the ground and basically giving us that pathway, because this right here has been coming up 24 has been it is, in my opinion, independents and those who are leaning, who are, in the Democratic Party, but not really as adamant about it as, it's just, but it is a means, because they don't want independence. And I am an independent. And so I'm fighting against a Democrat. And it just makes sense that we need to change that hold on the two-party system. And 24 is probably our biggest chance to make a big inroad to getting more progressives and more independents into our government that look and love by and for the people. Those three things is what I use. It's the same as the oath that I took when I became a Marine, to defend and people, of, by, and for the people, not of, by, and for the corporations or the billionaires or millionaires. Yeah, you come into the mix too, because you're part of the people. But when you start stealing from the people, it was just like this pandemic. We had people were getting essential workers were getting paid bonuses, but then they cut the bonuses out. But what happened then when they cut the bonuses out? The inflationary period, it went. I was getting ready to refinance my house to a 1.9, and overnight they raised the interest rate on loans by 2 points. And that just knocked me right out of it. I mean, anybody, and then that doesn't count the people who were working, those essential workers, who all the money that they were able to save up for saving other people's lives suddenly vanished within 6 months.
Well, I think it became pretty apparent how little they really cared about our nursing staff and our hospital staff. Like, I don't think that can become more obvious.
So I worked frontline in the hospital at a medical detox for the entire COVID pandemic. And it was, I almost left social work and I almost left helping people because of the trauma that it caused. When people were dropping like flies, it was fill up the bed. It was, we'll just replace that nurse with another nurse. And it was, you just have to work more overtime because that doctor passed away. We were not human beings. We were replaceable, and they made it very clear, black and white. And all we would get is, you did it. Here's a pen that says you're a hero.
Yeah, if that.
If
You
and
survive.
it was it's and then you're dealing with all this way of, you're balancing all this trauma, this epidemic that's happening, and then you have people with their families coming in and they're just like, okay, this person's going through withdrawal, and then seeing the horrors of what a lot of insurance companies did. Some of the insurance companies, even throughout the pandemic, would say this person's still not sick enough. That it's like, who are you? I'm evaluating them, a nurse is evaluating them, a doctor's evaluating them, we are saying they are sick. And for the insurance company to say no, when an insurance company denies, you have to wait 24 hours. It's like, okay, we're denying, but now what? This person's going to go out. They could die. They're really sick. And us fighting with the insurance companies. And even my doctor having to call an appeal and fighting with the insurance companies. It's just,
I think with some of them, especially, and I don't want to get tin hat conspiracy theorist, right? But with some of it, the people that were affected most, right? The elderly, right? People with medical conditions, people that as they see Medicare for all coming on the horizon, we're going to cost them a lot of money. And oddly enough, those are the same people that they just couldn't get around to helping.
mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't know, like, I want to make sure to get you guys' like statements on Medicare for all. I know that's a big sticking point in the 2024 election. And both of those guys just gave the answer to that is single payer healthcare.
Yes, it is.
Why would I ask somebody else if I can save my life? That's me and my doctor. And weirdly enough, the doctors are always like, yeah, save their life. Do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we need universal health care so desperately, because it's going to give the power back to the medical professionals. Insurance company, I do not need to argue with an insurance company, and I do not need to use a rating scale to say, okay, this is how much they scored, this is how sick they are, these are their symptoms, when they're right in front of me. And I'm just like, this person needs to get help now.
I have a friend. Her name is Laura Fielding, and she is the founder of the Red Berets. Have you heard of them?
Yes.
That's why I'm wearing this for the Healing Us movie.
You need to get in tight with that group. If there's a chapter in your state or close by, get in tight with them, Christina, because they are fantastic people. I've watched when I did my first run. That's when they started, and that was about a little over 8 years ago. They started, and they have just gone nationwide. And they have a special movie out. Isn't that right, Terrence? A special movie that talks about
the Healing Us movie. If just any of our viewers, I know we have, I'm going to try to get to some of you guys' questions. But the Healing Us movie, I think it's www.healingus.org as well. But if you can follow either of us or the Red Berets, I post a link for it every couple of days. It's really inspirational, and that people are still fighting that fervently, as well as absolutely heartbreaking to see this is the system that we live in the richest country in the world. Like when you watch the movies, you're kind of faced with both of those realities, and it's inspirational. It really makes you want to keep fighting, and we're close. We're so close. We just need one of you to bring it to the floor. Just one of you. Just one of you.
That's what
it's coming.
When we were there,
once we're in, we're making sure. And then it's also redesigning Medicare for all to make sure that the co-payments are not astronomical, and to make sure that premiums are not raised every year, so that way taxes are staying flat.
Okay.
Everybody on here is giving you guys lots of props for the taxing the rich. I think you got like some of them were a little bit more descriptive. We've got some of our brothers and sisters in Wisconsin. They say they live in low-income housing in Wisconsin, and they take 40% of their gross income for housing. Right off the bat. I don't know how much over that it costs the state to run those houses, but that for any of it. There should be a limit, right? A 3-bedroom house, a family, it should be, and not crazy difficult math, right? This is what you need to make 40 hours a week to be able to cover a 3-bedroom house. Done.
You know, I've had my own business and everything. I'd like to go back to healthcare for all just real quick and my experiences. You talked about how we could do the billing and everything. I receive all my healthcare, Christina, from the Veterans Administration. I pay zero. Okay, I pay zero. And this is what the Veterans Healthcare could be doing. They are the template for single payer healthcare. Okay, they are the single payer healthcare template. Okay, the VA has healed me this past year. You know, it's on my webpage where I'm a cancer survivor, and stage 4 lung cancer. I had a tumor in the size of my chest.
Wow.
It was in my chest, the size of my fist. Okay, and that was in 21. Okay, they gave me 8 months to live. Okay, they gave me until the 4th month of 22, and here we are in 23.
No, he can't be stopped that easy.
Yeah.
Well, you know, they also knew I had chemo and radiation at the same time, and I used a lot of cannabis as well.
Yeah, that was what you had written, that he's been a real big proponent. I know in Washington, David's known as the cannabis candidate, and kind of throughout his treatment and all of that, he was a big proponent of using CBD and cannabis to help with the side effects and all of that. It's really, really, really great stuff. I've got another couple that said I would be homeless if it was Section 8, which is kind of another thing that culturally, you know, they've built this negativity around something that shouldn't be negative.
No.
I love, I don't have it, but I tell people, if you can get it, get it. Like what Section 8 does is it really, really saves lives. It saves families.
Yes, it does.
But you hear people talk about it, especially the right politicians, and the way that they talk about Section 8 and people on Section 8, you know, it's synonymous with negativity. Right?
Yeah,
like they're calling you scum. They're just saying the word Section 8, even though none of the statistics behind it, right, back up why you're painting someone that way or why you feel that way. Right. To them, it's you know, it seems to affect them on like almost a spiritual level and an emotional level. You see that they get like angry and upset and all of that. In some cases, violent. When talking about things like Section 8, like food, like social, you know, like single payer healthcare, it's really weird. Like I said, I didn't grow up here, so like seeing it seems really weird to me sometimes.
Yeah. So the long game, how I see where America's going, is definitely not in a good direction, and policing and criminalizing homelessness, trying to remove benefits that help uplift the people. It's more like they want to, I'm trying to think the word I'm trying to use. It's it's going to be a giant mass incarceration. That's where I see America going, because we need to amend the 13th Amendment, remove the slavery part. And what a lot of prisons do, especially private prisons, is they do not focus on treatment. They focus on making products. So these billionaire companies can come in, build these products. They pay you 10 cents an hour, and then they turn around and charge it for like $200 or $300.
Well, that's the deal. When we celebrated Juneteenth, right? Juneteenth did not mark the end of slavery. Juneteenth marked the slavery from the private to public sector. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Same in a lot of cases, it's the same people. And even some of the prisons are old plantation. Like they were already a plantation when they changed them over. I know I posted a lot. The prison ship off the coast of New York. That's an absolute nightmare. Right. That is a slave ship. No doubt. Granted, you slap new paint on it, but I know what a slave ship looks like. Let me guess. You got a bunch of black and brown people in there in chains. I know what a slave ship looks like.
And then we also have the abuse that's happening within the prison setting. But like, for example, Rikers Island, and then in New Jersey, we have the women's prison that we're supposed to be closing down. And we're supposed to be, helping reopen a new, healthier, safer environment. But it's been in the works for so many years, and I'll just share some of the things that's happened in the women's prison because it's public record. So you can Google New Jersey women's prison. So for my record, I'm not breaking any laws, right? Rules right now. Okay.
If it's on Google, it's fair play.
Yes. So the women were being raped and beaten by male prison guards and sodomized, and they would be strip searched against their will. And this was going on for so many years. And then finally Murphy came in 2020 or 2019, one of those years. And he was just like, oh, we're going to close this. We're going to change this. We're going to make sure these women are safe. Nothing.
They just moved the problem to another area. The women are still going to be affected the same way. They're just changing buildings. And that has got to stop.
Well, and having actual records to deal with some of these institutionalized issues, because there was a woman a little bit ago, she was assaulted by a police officer. And then when she came to court, that police officer was one of the bailiffs and said that he wanted to strip search her. And when she said no, and she was there with her child, when she said, no, I don't want to be strip searched by the person that just assaulted me, right? They marked her with being, with, some stupid crime, put her in prison and took her child away.
And that is what drives me crazy, because everywhere I've worked, we have very, very strict protocols. Women or with people who are comfortable with women, men who are comfortable with men, but people, what I'm trying to say. And even when I was working, when I would get calls to go to the involuntary part of the hospital, when it comes to a code, when we had a person who said, I only want women approaching me, I only feel safe with women approaching me, the men would step back, and we would go up and we would talk to the person and de-escalate the situation and then get them comfortable in the bed. We never forced anything against somebody's will. We were always gentle with a person. I've never been in a call where it has escalated. And a great example would be Najee Seabrooks, Justice for Najee, who was gunned down. And there was a mental health call in New Jersey, and the mental health unit that was there for the call, the police refused to let them go in and deal with the mental health call for 4 hours. When they finally went in, they had their guns drawn. And anyone who knows, and this shows like we really need to do a huge entire reform of the entire system, because I've been in similar calls with mental health, with a person being high on a speedball, with a person being so out of it, and or high on I'm calling it angel dust, and you dip your cigarette.
PCP.
There we go. PCP. It's never turned violent. It has never escalated, because there's two simple rules you follow. You keep your distance and you keep yourself calm. And while you're speaking with the person, we understand when a person's in a severe mental health crisis, their frontal lobe, their decision-making skill is completely shut down. They're going to be responding on fight or flight mode. And that's why you have to keep your distance. In case they lunge or jump, you're able to move safely out the way. Those cops came in and they had their guns drawn. When Najee came out of the room, he was in a fight or flight response. They didn't understand what was happening. They had him cornered and his body just reacted. And it's just, and he should have been alive today.
Well, I mean, besides all sorts of other issues involved in it, these police officers are not trained, are not equipped to deal with it. It's something that I think Dave and I have talked about with the military, right? Mm-hmm. The military, our job, no matter how pretty in words you use to put it, is to defend our country by killing people, right? And anytime you ask us to do anything other than that, it gets all messed up, because we are not trained to do anything else, right? That is our only job. Is if you talk America, we kill you. That is our job, right? And when we get asked, we're not nation builders, we're not police force, we're not any of those things. We cannot help you, right? Love does not come out of our machine guns, right? If you would like to help people, you're going to have to send engineers, people that build roads, doctors, right? All of that. In this same case, the police have a gun. They have, you know what I mean? They can shoot someone, but they don't even have the tools to deal with any of it. They were the wrong people to call in that situation, but the only people that will fund.
Mm-hmm.
And this is something we've been experiencing ever since Ronald Reagan was president. He funded the National Institute of Mental Health. And we started seeing a decline in having counselors in high schools and grade schools. And we never saw mass shootings in our schools. We never saw guns in our schools. I mean, when I was growing up, when I was in high school, the guys would, they would have their gun racks in the back of their pickup trucks, and they'd have their lever action, rifle and or bows and arrows or whatever, their shotguns. Nobody broke into their cars. Nobody took anything out. Nobody took their guns in to show off, in school. I mean, it was just that those were different times. And we were at war.
Well, I think it was several things that were involved in it. Nobody is probably the wrong word, right? Before the age of the internet, right? If a 14 blows away another 14-year-old in nowhere, Kentucky, you didn't hear about it.
No.
It wasn't on the news because the news didn't exist. It wasn't in the papers because the papers didn't exist. So although a lot of people like to reminisce about a better time and about a better whatever, if you go back and look at the newspapers from those hometowns, right, there were gun accidents, there were gun violence, there were people accidentally shooting each other because 14-year-olds shouldn't have firearms.
Mm-hmm.
But
right?
we had
at 14, they were just as dumb and made just as bad decisions as we were. But in the same way that you don't hear about things, on the other side of the world, you just didn't hear about it because unless it was in your local paper, you didn't.
Yeah. We've let our Republican brothers and sisters do ill will against this nation, and that is giving all the money to the rich. I mean, President Trump, what did he do? $2 trillion plus giveaways to the rich and cutting their taxes. When we had people that we talked about, essential workers, who lost everything. The rich, if you're making 6-7 figures, you don't really worry about inflationary periods. Because if you have a business, it's good for you because you get to raise the price and no one's going to say anything to you. We have to take control of our economy. People got to learn modern monetary theory so that we understand how our government is funded. We need to understand how we are going to work with our people. Anytime that we do something that of, by, and for the people is not of, by, and for the people, we have not served the people.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, there has to be a limit, right? I think we all, you kind of knew that this was going to go pretty badly when during the heat of the worst time of the pandemic, the rich had so much money, they were launching each other into space, like just for fun, right? Like not an actual project, like, dislike or not like Elon Musk. He's got like actual government, projects, and, he's going back and forth to space. He was already doing it. Bezos and all of them, just something to do, guys, right? I got enough money, build me a rocket.
Yeah.
Like, that's how much money that they had. And it was weird to see the media and everybody celebrate it like somehow that wasn't a good thing. When Bezos's rocket went off, I said, we're going to be in a recession within the next 2 years. Yeah. Right? Mm-hmm. Because the rich have so much money at this point, they don't even know where to spend it. I bought all of the ships. I bought all of I bought everything I possibly can. I'd spend a little extra money on a rocket. Virgin Galactic had taxpayers pay for it. It didn't even come out of his pocket.
We still don't know where the Robinson families are at. They got lost in space, and we still don't know where they're at. And all these rockets going into space, I thought for sure Bezos and Musk would have figured out a way to find the Robinsons. Going to Mars. I don't think they're in Mars. I don't think they're on Mars.
Look, if you give me the same budget as the military-industrial complex, I'll look.
I could find them. I could find the Robinsons,
I can guarantee you. I mean, like, we should be, not to get weird, but we should be, like, NASA has almost no funding. They're like setting the right up. We should be turning the lights off. We should be traveling at least our solar system. And we spent all our money on nothing. Even to get to space, what we gave Bezos, that would have been much better spent in the hands of NASA.
Yes.
Oh, 100%. And just to go with the whole tax the rich and what your one of the individuals messaged you earlier, what they lost 40% of their income. So, and we're in also where our country's saying we don't have money for Social Security. The reason we don't have money for Social Security, where we do have the money, is because after $108,000, they stop the tax. So anything above $108,000 is no longer taxed for Social Security, and that needs to be completely open.
Thank you. And I like that.
That is exactly how we're going to fund retirement, because we have people that are retired, and there's in my state, and I know the states around me, Social Security does not cover rent, medicine, food. It does not cover any of that. So we need to increase the Social Security payments, because it's the citizens that keep this country running, and it's the citizens that need to be taken care of.
Yes.
So if 25% of Americans went on strike tomorrow, the entire country would fall.
I think that's a good idea. We need to wake up the billionaires. I mean, if we can stop the billionaires and start getting some real employment benefits for the people who are working, and in turn, make it so that the people on Social Security or disability, are not groveling. Alms, master, alms. We need alms, please. Alms. We have no money. Bread.
Well, and even taking some of it out after, anytime that we ask for something on the other side, right? They say, oh, well, we have to, do it by income limit, right? Well, that's fine. Why should you be a multimillionaire and still be getting Social Security?
Or no taxes at all.
Well, I mean, they don't pay any taxes and they get Social Security. Like, it's all wins.
And a pension.
Yeah, we can make amendments to that, Christina. If you are making 6 figures plus, and you are only paid up to $108,000, then
you're already rich. You just don't need the extra money. Like once you can say I'm rich,
we can make that.
Then let it go.
We can make that difference. We could change that.
It's that kind of like fraud and abuse.
That's all they're paying in. They're not going to get $108,000 a month.
But you won the game. Like it's not. You did pay in through it, right? But at a certain point, you're a multimillionaire. You won. Part of being part of society is that you're part of society, right? And not just a leech on it. And it seems like the rich are always a leech on it, and they want blood.
Well, they don't get mine.
Well, no, we have to get you guys in office. Like, that's the deal. It all comes down to policy. It all comes down to writing legislation, because some of these conversations we've been having for 50, 60 years.
Yes.
Right. And then when it gets into office, where is it? Like I was saying earlier, Medicare for all. Only one of you has to bring it to the floor. Just one person. We've had, Trump in office for 4 years, and now Biden in office for another 4 years. It's almost 8 years, and not one single person has brought it to the
Christina,
floor.
When I saw that movie that Terrence mentioned earlier from Medicare for All,
the
healing movie. When the movie was over, I got the opportunity to speak to the cast and crew of it, and I explained to them that I was a candidate for U.S. Senate, that I was an independent, and one of the first things that I'm going to do once I'm sworn in is to present a bill to the floor. And if you want to be part of that, Christina, we can rock this like nobody's business.
Oh, I'll definitely be part of that.
Thank you very much, because I promised them that's what I would do. And if you get in touch with Laura Fielding and make that same promise that I did and say, yes, I had the opportunity to meet Dave, guess what? I agree with him on that, and we will submit that bill to the floor on the Senate once we are inaugurated. And
well, I mean, we have to have a united front on not just this issue. There's a couple of issues. And when we look at the right, they're united. Mm-hmm. They don't have to ask each other, right? They're not calling each other and breaking deals, right? They're united in their couple of issues that they care about, right? And they will fight like dogs for those issues. where you guys were talking about earlier about the abortion issue, as horrible as them undoing Roe v. Wade is, you had plenty of warning. They told you for 60 years they were going to undo it until they did. Like, I don't know if somebody tells you, hey man, I'm going to punch you in the face, and they tell you that for 60 years, and you open your door one day and they punch you right in the face, that's on you. They warned you for 60 years saying, as soon as we get in office, we're going to punch you right in the face. And it was treated as a third rail. We're not going to they could have codified Roe 1,000 times over during the Clinton administration, during the Obama administration, right? There was plenty of times, not even 2 years ago, you had the House, the Senate, and the presidency. You could codify it then. Right? But the guys that told you for 60 years, as soon as they're in power, they're going to punch you right in the face. They took power and punched you right in the face.
Well, guess what? If they try slapping Christina in the face, I'll throw them in my wall locker that's up there by the podium, upside down, like I did when I was in the Marine Corps.
We just need to get people in office that pass legislation that has teeth. Bottom line, not games, not bullshit. The right doesn't have this problem.
I will not stand for anybody.
They walk in office day one. And pass legislation to undermine abortion rights. Day one. Didn't fuck around, didn't ask questions, didn't talk to nobody. Day one, they were in it. Done.
I think that's
right. How about guns? You guys like guns? A cap for every ass and a gun for every hand, right? Day one, they started rolling back gun legislation. They didn't ask, they didn't talk games, they didn't tweet, they didn't make CNN weekend interviews. They did it day one.
Well, I would like to,
and we could do it day one.
That's right, we could. And Christina, I would like to say,
right? Legislation day one.
Yes.
And on top of that, even when it comes to like the amendments, and the Second and 13th Amendment do need to be adjusted because they go by state. You don't actually have to adjust the amendments. And the reason I'm saying that on a federal level is because Idaho in March, they personally adjusted the 8th Amendment for cruel and unusual punishment. And they are one of the many states that have just adjusted that, where they are bringing back the firing squad. And the amount of innocent people who are going to be murdered for ridiculous crimes, and you don't even have to actually commit a crime to be charged, and even made up crimes, and it's going to really hurt the Black and brown communities the most. It's just astonishing. And
there was oh no, go ahead. Sorry.
And you can be shot up with like 11, 12 bullets and not actually die. So now you're creating PTSD with these officers, forcing them to go out into the communities, and they're just trained mercenaries, and you're expecting them to deal with mental health calls, how to handle children, and to be able to have this humanity switch turned off and on. And meanwhile, people are choking on their blood, slowly dying in front of you, and you just have to dispose of the bodies. And not one person in office is calling out this humanity that Idaho is going against our Constitution, our amendments, and reintroducing cruel punishments.
I think it was I want to say Montana. It was one of them. They had some psychopath up there, and he's always pushing for corporal punishment for prisoners. That he wants to beat the crap out of prisoners for weed, right? I mean, that's what most people are in jail for. And I've always had the same response. Same with the firing squad. That's fine, fair enough. Then you need to add political crimes to the things that you can be executed for crimes. That corporal punishment, that's fine, right? Embezzlement, right? Political embezzlement, immediate corporal punishment. If that's what you want to say, if you want to say, look, I want to murder my constituents, fair enough, right? Then those laws need to apply to your crimes, right? Not that you caught some kid with fucking weed in his pocket, and because it's 3 strikes and blah, 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 you now get to execute them. No, you get caught embezzling money in office, you get executed. And you'd be surprised how quick they roll back. Actually, that's not what we wanted, right? Once it affects them, you'd be surprised how quick. Like, that's fine. Make whatever psychotic fucking jaws that you want, right? But you need to be top on that list.
Well, by July 4th, is it July 3rd? Or in the beginning of July of this year, that's when it's going to be be actually implemented.
And I mean, they'll hire people that have lived their entire life wanting to execute black folk. They ain't hard to find.
And we really need people in office that are going to protect these people. And that's where it's like, just the fact, like,
protect their constituents. The fact that somebody is getting, like, in the national stage is coming to you and saying, hey, I would like to shoot your constituent. Right? Yeah. That's insanity, right?
Yeah, and then we have people saying, oh, you can't change the Second Amendment, you can't change the 13th Amendment, you have to have everyone on board. Well, no, you can change it. You don't have to have everybody on board. You can do it, obviously, state by state.
And to be clear, it's an amendment, right? It's not in the Constitution. It's an amendment, right? I think that seems to get overlooked. Not even the Founding Fathers were 100% on it, which is why it counts as an amendment. Right. And both, again, I think we said it like several times, both David and I served. If you would like to fire fully automatic, right, armor piercing, depleted uranium, rotating cannons, go nuts. See your recruiter at the end of the street. Right. That's as easy as it is. If that's your thing, I love guns so much. The recruiter is at the end of your street. You shoot guns all day, all night.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But the time where a 14-year-old can walk into Walmart and buy a machine gun. Come on, guys. That was just never going to work out well.
I don't even understand how that. Well, that's why we're running, to make sure that the changes are made and we can have educated people.
And there's things that you're not going to understand 100%, that you're going to have to look back and say, show me the evidence, right? So that we can think of intelligent ways to fix these problems. I think some of the issues that we have is that people get into, like, what their side's rhetoric is, and then they can't pull off from it no matter what, no matter how stupid of an idea it is, no matter how long it goes without working. The 94 crime bill isn't a great example, where everybody in America agrees that this is a shit deal, but because the Democrats wrote it, we can't undo it.
Yeah.
Right. For no other reason that because you wrote it and it was a bad idea, well, we can't undo it because it's our bait. Why? It's a bad idea.
Mm-hmm.
But we get, like, in this, well, that's the party line. We can never violate from the party line. We can never think for ourselves. We can never look at this from the outside, right? Or from a balanced perspective. It's support the 94 crime bill or we don't support your run for whatever, right? It's that kind of psychoses. That's the word I'm looking for.
Just because you're incarcerated doesn't mean that you've lost your human rights or your freedom. You may have lost your freedom to move about. You may have lost some other things like gun ownership or this, and you may have a hard time finding a job to get someplace. But if you are incarcerated, you did not lose your rights as an individual.
Let me ask you both directly. Do you feel that felons should be able to vote?
Yes, they should be able to vote.
I think so too.
If they pay taxes, they vote.
Yeah. If they're working in a prison for profit, yes, especially they need to vote.
Excellent. It's certain questions I ask every politician that I bring on here, right? And I ask them those questions, and I'm looking for exactly how you guys answered, right? When I ask, oh, do you think the felon should be able to vote? Yep. Right? Lies take an extremely long time. You barely ever get a yes or no answer with a lie, right? Lies always have, right, a long explanation behind them. And when people answer you directly with hard questions like that, it's normally a sign that they're telling you the truth. And that really does, that's kind of inspiring. So yeah, thank you guys both.
I feel like that's an easy question because you actually have to prove that they committed the crime. And, you know, we have a large amount of people that the evidence isn't actually accurate, and now you have a felon charge on you. So felons,
and not everybody's going to vote against their self-interest, right? I bet you there are 1 million people in prison right now for weed that would immediately vote for its legalization.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And it should be, right? If I'm not, in the same way that there was not the numbers, not even close, geez. But during prohibition, right? The people that would have voted to not have prohibition because that's insane.
I would like to give this to Christina, this little tidbit. I've been fighting for marijuana legalization since 1978. I was a Marine Corps sergeant working in the Judge Advocate General's office. I scheduled court martials. I smoked marijuana 4 times a day, twice while I was on base. I petitioned the North Carolina Drug Commission for medical marijuana. The Navy and the Marine Corps did not know what to do. When I met with my commanding officer at Marine Corps base, he says, if I gave you an order, Sergeant, would you stop? And I told my commanding officer, sir, that is an order I would hope you would never give me. He said, then what can we do? I said, will you accept my resignation? Because I did not like the attention that it's been brought to the United States Marine Corps. He thought a minute and he says, yes. 30 days later, I was out with my second honorable discharge from the United States Marine Corps. They didn't know what to do. I was up for OCS to be a prosecutor. I could not prosecute somebody for something that I did 4 times a day, twice while I was on base. Did it affect my ability to be a Marine? No, I still shot expert. Did it affect my ability to physical fitness test? No, I still passed my physical fitness test. I was still an excellent to outstanding Marine. But because marijuana was involved in the issue, I was given really crappy.
Well, I mean, they're kind of running out of reasons to keep it. I mean, at this point, they agree with you. You know, when you say, hey, mass incarceration is wrong, we need to legalize, the politicians at this point will straight up just agree with you. Yeah, of course.
And the Veterans Administration.
Now, they don't do anything about it. They don't change any of the laws. But when you ask them, you're all like, hey, this is all messed up. And they're like, yeah, it's mass incarceration. Definitely systemic racism. Oh, we should legalize. Yeah, we should totally legalize. They're trading it openly on the stock market. Yeah, definitely. So are you going to federally legalize?
Oncology, the oncology unit at the Veterans Administration here in Seattle, Washington, they knew about my uses of marijuana during my chemotherapy and all that stuff. They did not write it in my book. They used over the counter to put that in there. That's all they was over the counter medication.
Well, and I mean, I can't tell anybody what to do, but it does kind of like
when I told my doctors, they took down the dosage, because what happened was I was an outstanding patient. I was going to and from treatment without getting someone to drive for me. And they said, how do you do that? I said, I just do it, and so anyway, I've been fighting this fight for a long time, Christina, and we can do that. We can get the marijuana taken off of Schedule 1. And when we do that, we can empty our prisons out and we can get rid of prisons for profit, all in the same movement.
And have some real revenue coming in. Like, we're kind of, we wouldn't be hurting to have that extra revenue coming into the US system. We've got a lot of people that are hurting. Pick an issue and you can fund it with marijuana.
And also removing the barriers of business ownership for Black and brown individuals who want to sell marijuana.
Yes.
Because there's so many, I know in New Jersey and around my area in the tri-state, there's so many barriers for business ownership. So the same drug that they're going to prison for, there's more barriers in place for them to sell. They can't run the business.
Yeah. But they're changing that here in Washington.
I mean, there was an article the cover of Forbes magazine about, cannabis business and this and that. And like I said, you can get on any trading app and buy it. If you're a corporation, they got no problem with you buying and selling weed. Right. But if you just want to grow a plant in your backyard or, it's just, the whole thing is insane.
Yes. And we've got to change that.
It really is.
We've got to change it. And we can.
Well, it's got to been taken off of Schedule 1. It's got to be taken off of Schedule 1.
Taken off of Schedule 1.
All right. So I think we're coming up to our 2-hour limit here. Give each and one of you guys kind of a moment to speak directly to your voters. I don't know. Hopefully, in the near future, I'm going to be able to set up some debates between candidates across the board. But if you could speak directly to your voters in kind of a 2 to 3 minute section, what would you say?
I would say, let's end generational trauma, and together we can start generational healing.
Beautiful, beautiful. Dave, what would you say if you could stop? They stop. You got your 2 seconds in your elevator, right? What would you say to your constituents?
Of, by, and for the people. If it isn't of, by, and for the people, then it doesn't belong in our system. It's the people that matter, not the corporations, not the businesses, but the people, period.
Beautiful, beautiful. I have a couple of questions that I'm gonna send to you guys afterward, just because I don't think they should be quite so public, just so that if people ask, I can see what you guys' feelings are on them. You're both in an interesting spot. The world is America is asking for change, is looking for change. People, I've never seen a time where people wanted it so bad and feel like all of the options that they have are just terrible, right? And in that, we've got people that, like yourselves, that are willing to stand up, that are willing to do the right thing, that have the right mindset, that actually want to help their people, and they just need that leg up, that boost, that support, and sometimes even just knowing that they exist. I've talked to people and they said, well, there's just nobody in my area to vote for. I'm like, oh, but there's Christina, there's, you can go, there are people out there, but we have to give them as much support as we give random internet celebs. Right? Like, you have to actually support them. The other side, the corporate side, they've got so much support. So when you do have people, right? I'm not playing the, donate now, right? I'm saying when you do have people that do support your values, you have to support them. Right?
Christina, I would like to open the door up. I would, during the course of our campaign, we're going to run into a lot of obstacles, and people are going to, try to, kick our feet out from underneath us. And I am here, as I hope you are there, for me, so that we can discuss and rise above the fray, that we will not let, issues in our area deter us from what we was able to talk about today. I enjoyed being here with you, Christina, and I want to be here. If you need a sounding board to complain or just to get down on some, an issue, I got ears, and I hear pretty good. And I having lived, in New Jersey for about a year, as I told you earlier, I'm familiar with, the attitudes, of the people there. It's like, shut up, get away from me. Why'd you do that?
Yeah, Jersey, but you can maneuver around it. I know how to talk to these people.
Yeah. It's gonna take a united front. I just want
to let you know that I am here, as I hope that all of the other independents like ourselves, that we want to do something for the people. I hope that we can all get together and give each other strength as we move into this campaign season in 2024, because it's going to get nasty. And I'm prepared for nasty. And
it's just the way that, politics work. You know what you're getting into. This is a den of jackals, right? Like, you guys aren't going to be a preschool teacher. You're going to be a politician, right? These are terrible people. That's how we got to this spot, right? So know what you're surrounding yourself. But it is going to take a united front. We have to be at least as united as they are.
Yes,
right? At least that's the minimum. That's just to come out even, right? We have to be at least that united. But the things that I feel that you guys, share, but that's just your general voter shares: Medicare for all, legalization, ending mass incarceration. So many people support that. As soon as they hear you say it, you'll have at least their ear for that moment. And if they can listen for a minute, then you'll get their support. But we got to break out of this two-party corporate nightmare. We got to do it.
Yeah.
Agreed.
And David, I am with you. As soon as I registered on the ballot, 7 other people went against me going against this one person. So it's already gotten nasty.
Hoorah.
because I threatened a minority woman, an Egyptian woman holding a federal office threatens so many people.
I think it's wonderful.
I'm sure somebody's having a full-on meltdown over that.
This is what America's built on, Christina. This is what America's built on. And I come to find out a week, 10 days ago, that I am a direct descendant of the America's first revolution. I am a son of the American Revolution. I haven't registered with them yet, but I am that. And I know this, that you, being a minority woman like you are part of what the American experience is all about. Without people like you stepping up, we would have no nation. So I enjoy being in your company.
Thank you. I enjoy being in
it was a great talk. I think we'll have one of many. Hopefully I'll have both of you guys on. We've got a lot of shows coming up. There are so many races running at the moment. It's going to be pretty nonstop, but it's a lot of fun. We get to really hear people, their new ideas. When we get to talk to you guys, everybody always comes away, right, inspired, energized, that we do have a future. It's not over. We don't have to settle for this crap that they're trying to feed us, right? So it's great to have you guys on, and I look forward to having you on here in the future. I know both of you guys have websites. So Christina, if you want to give out your website, please do.
Oh, yeah, it's Christina Khalil for NewJersey.com. No, I feel like it's such a long name. I don't know if we can add a link to that.
And I think I have it on the YouTube page, the Facebook page, and the Twitter page. Your Twitter handle and your website are both on there. And then Dave, you've got a website as well?
Yes, it's davidstriderforsenate.com. That is David Strider, like you see printed here on the for Senate.com.
And I put that in the description. Guys, I'll never tell you to donate to a political campaign, but check them out, do your research, and if these are the kind of people that you would like to see in office, then you know what to do. All right, so I'm going to close it down, and then I've got a couple of things, like housekeeping things, to go over. We're still doing the project to the Navajo reservation and to hurricane victims. This is the emergency solar project. Look, we got 1,200 people without without access to electricity or drinkable water. Means all we need to do is get 1,000 solar generators and 1,000 water from air systems and move on to the next project. As the hurricanes bear down on us, right? They're coming. We are now in a hurricane season. We can get solar generators to people that need them before the hurricanes hit, right? Before they go there. We've got the emergency response centers in Puerto Rico, the hospitals in Puerto Rico. We can get solar generators there so that they're not struggling when the hurricanes hit, and we don't have to send tons and tons and tons of water bottles. All wins. So if you haven't followed that project, please message me, follow the project, share it out. You guys know the deal. Thanks for watching. Stay strong.